Welcome to Debate Night, everybody. My name is Charlie Kirk. Tonight's topic is abortion. Welcome to Debate Night, everybody. My name is Charlie Kirk. Debate is at the core of our constitutional republic. Welcome to Debate Night, everybody. My name is Charlie Kirk.
Several years ago, one Charlie Tiberius Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA, started a new series on his YouTube channel called Debate Night. Charlie markets himself as a fierce defender of conservative values, equipped with the logic and facts that the right is so well known for possessing. And Debate Night was meant to be a venue for Charlie to show his followers his superior debating skills by having rigorous discussions with people on the left, perhaps with the added intent of making them look stupid. But it mysteriously fizzled out and was shelved after only 7 episodes, with the last one posted in June 2022. No doubt this is because Charlie found himself debating, for the most part, serious political commentators who were more prepared than the typical college student. But if you peruse Charlie's channel now, you will see he has gone back to his roots, owning college libs that don't talk politics for a living. So my theory is that Charlie quietly stopped doing Debate Night because he was repeatedly shown to be either arguing in bad faith or just had absolutely no idea what he was talking about. He was embarrassed, really, for constantly getting spanked by people on the left. You know, the side that only argues with emotion, not facts and logic. Now, don't get me wrong, Charlie is clearly a skilled speaker. He can rattle off memorized talking points about current and historical events, politics, and philosophy that justify his conservative political positions and defend them against common objections.
From an objective analysis of world history, we are the most creative, the most accepting, the most benevolent, the most generous, most forward-thinking and productive country ever to exist. We are a country that sent 37,000 of our own citizens to die on the Korean Peninsula so South Korea could exist, and we asked for nothing in return. No country's ever done anything close to that. How is that not true what I just said? We've taken half of the world's immigrants, half. We're also the most accepting, least racist, most diverse, multiracial country in the world, by far.
But more often than not, his arguments don't stand up to scrutiny when confronted by intelligent people on the left. The first debate we're going to look at is between Charlie and Marxist philosophy professor Ben Burgess. As part of his opening statement, Ben gives us his reasons for why he's a democratic socialist, one of which is that capitalism concentrates wealth and power in the hands of a tiny elite.
I'm a democratic socialist because I don't think anybody deserves to have less power or a dramatically worse life because of factors that are outside of their control. So that's the first part. That's the philosophical basis. Concretely, I think it's obscene that we have an economic system where workers at Amazon warehouses skip bathroom breaks because they're worried about falling behind in their quotas, and their boss literally owns his own spaceship.
And here's Charlie's response.
We believe in limitations on human beings, and we should believe there are limitations on power, both government power and, yes, of course, corporate power, as Barry Goldwater said. But when you talk about an untouchable oligarchy, I completely agree. I think that there is an untouchable oligarchy in this country that is crushing the everyday common man. Where I think we're going to disagree is that I think the end goal, the thing that we must strive to, is family formation, family protection, and that strong moral center.
So Charlie seems to agree that there is an oligarchy that possesses an unjust amount of wealth and power. What Charlie doesn't seem to understand is that this is the natural outcome of capitalism. He also mentions how important it is to start families, not realizing that capitalism, which gives rise to oligarchs like Jeff Bezos, does not provide the level of financial stability that makes it easier to start and maintain a healthy family. This is Ben's response to both points.
Well, I guess what I would say is when you talk about limited power, right? I get that. That makes sense to me. I think oftentimes actually people get the relationship between these things really wrong, and they'll think, well, the more you think that human nature is good and cooperative, the more you might think that a fairer society is possible, and the more you think that human nature is flawed and selfish and cruel, then the more you should think that, hey, we might as well just stick with free market capitalism. But I think the opposite is true. I think that the more you worry that given too much power over another, one person over another, that person is going to treat the other the way that Walmart treats its employees, the way that Harvey Weinstein treated aspiring actresses. The more you're worried about that, the more you should want power to be distributed as evenly as at all possible. And that's really why I'm a democratic socialist, that I think whether you're talking about Russia under Stalin or Amazon under our mutual friend Jeff Bezos,
Not a friend.
then any time you have one person having way too much power over another without democratic accountability, I think you're going to get really bad abuses.
So
when you talk about the family, sure, absolutely. If people, social institutions are making it harder to keep families together, that's a bad thing. I think that I would point to the financial pressures that people are often under as a huge source of problems within families, as a huge reason for relationships and marriages failing. And that's something that I think would be helped by doing things like changing labor laws to make it easier to organize unions so people would be getting better wages and have more job stability, less of what employers like to call flexibility and everybody else calls precarity. And so that might be one place to start exploring this is, maybe you'll surprise me here, right? But I do not think we disagree. We agree on that.
Charlie ultimately does not have a good response to Ben's arguments. Charlie does, however, repeatedly pay lip service to the idea that we need to curb corporate power, but he never explains how he would do that, not even a rough outline. And that's because I believe he doesn't actually want to curb corporate power, surprise, but still wants people to think he's on the side of the working class, which makes sense. His organization was funded by a man named Foster Friess, a billionaire investor who donated to right-wing groups that espouse the kind of economic system that doesn't actually benefit the working class. He then goes on a monologue about how important families are, again, without substantively addressing any of Ben's arguments on why his policies would improve the lives of working-class families. After the structured section of the debate, Charlie and Ben go into a segment of back and forth, and the first thing Charlie does is challenge Ben to give examples of successful socialist countries. After Ben predictably lists the Scandinavian countries, albeit with caveats on just how socialist they are, Charlie trots out some of his memorized talking points. Ben's response reveals just how simplistic and, dare I say, bad faith these talking points are.
Where would you point to as 1, 2, or 3 examples that you think are the best embodiment of the worldview that you hold?
Yeah, so I think that all of the things that I want, I do not think exist together right now in the world. But if you want to talk about places where a lot of the policy goals that I'd support, have been implemented, I certainly don't think they're fully socialist societies by any stretch of the imagination, but I think a lot of it has been implemented. I would talk about, the places you'd expect me to talk about, your Swedens, your Finlands, your Denmarks, your Norways. Now, these are complicated societies that, there are right-wing parties win elections sometimes too, and they do things that I don't like. But I think that these are places, broadly speaking, where a lot has been done to take certain things, like healthcare, for example, outside of the market so that people have that kind of freedom that I'm talking about, that they're not tied to jobs that they hate because they're worried that they and their families' basic needs aren't going to be taken care of if they don't stay in that subservient relationship. And you talked earlier about how you want the state to support things that are objectively good.
Yes.
It seems to me that living longer is objectively good.
Yes.
Having lower infant mortality is objectively good. And I would also say that having greater freedom to live your life how you want and not being tied to a particular job, I think that's also objectively
So
good.
job mobility is interesting. I want to get into that. So I'm not stunned you mentioned the Scandinavian countries.
Sure, yeah.
So Denmark doesn't have a minimum wage.
Well, but you got to do the other half of that. That they don't have a minimum wage, but they have vastly more favorable terrain for unions than the United States does, and so a lot of the wage floor is enforced that way. It's still not just they get whatever the market says they get.
But no government mandated minimum wage. What I find interesting, and there are some aspects of the Scandinavian countries appeal to me.
Sure.
According to the World Economic Freedom Index, every country outside of Norway is more economically free than the United States. And so is that something that would interest you? If economic freedom is the definition of your view, then I would change the Bernie Sanders shirt.
I think that what I mean by economic freedom and what they mean by economic freedom are going to be very different. I think oftentimes if you look at the methodology of those lists, it's very unclear. Like you'll get like the Cato Institute or whoever in some cases will do these lists where they rank places by freedom, and it's like the things that they get points for, the things they don't get points for. Abortion doesn't matter. Whether you can have raw milk matters. I think are at least unclear to me. But I think this is the bigger philosophical thing,
sure,
though, right? Like let's just do this rather than getting into the nitty gritty about the lists. I think that what those guys mean by economic freedom is how much business owners are free to conduct their business however they want, without interference by the state. What I would mean by freedom in an economic context is the right of ordinary people to live the kinds of lives that they want to live and not be under the thumb to the extent that people are in the United States of whatever some corporation, wants to make them do.
Denmark has actually come out and has said, "Stop calling us socialist. We are not socialist." You've seen that quote.
Well, I have seen it, but here's
okay,
what,
good.
but I would like to say
Please
something
do.
about this. I think that saying that there's here is this center-right kind of prime minister who says, no, these social gains have nothing to do with socialism, and you say, oh well, he says it, right? So therefore he must be speaking for Denmark as a whole, the Danish hive mind, I think is approximately equivalent to if the only two, if you were from Denmark and the only two Americans you'd ever talk to were Bernie Sanders and me, and you said, well, here's what they say about what America's all about. Here's what they say about, Social Security or the post office. This is the American point of view. I think, if you look at how long socialist parties were in power in Denmark and how many of those programs came about under them, I would not say that these are societies that have achieved socialism. We could certainly talk about what that would mean to me. But I would say that these are societies where socialist parties allied with strong unions have brought about really beneficial social reforms as an effort to move farther in that direction.
So let's.
As you can see, when Charlie's superficial talking points about Scandinavia, or really just anything, are confronted by someone who's thought a lot about his positions, they completely fall apart. Okay, in order to make this a little more fun, I thought I would put in a segment where Charlie repeatedly sets up Ben for an easy dunk, because what is a debate without a little flair?
You think I like Woodrow Wilson, the guy who?
Probably.
I mean, Woodrow Wilson is the guy who resegregated the federal bureaucracy after it was integrated.
Do a whole speech on
he
that.
put Eugene V. Debs in jail. Nobody on the left is going to see Woodrow Wilson as a hero. Liberals. Nobody on the left, but I was just going to say
I know plenty of people that would, but that's fine.
I don't think you're going to find a lot of socialists.
FDR, LBJ, John Dewey, all these people believed in a strong administrative state.
Well, I mean, you're rattling off a bunch of liberals, but that's okay. We don't need to argue about the historical figures. I think that Karl Marx is a basically positive figure. I think that the theory of history is mostly right, and I also I see you smiling. Happy to get into it.
I'm happy to debate the Hegelian dialectic and the phenomenology of spirit.
Oh, okay.
No, not debate it. We can discuss it.
Not where I thought this was going, but that's cool.
I mean that's basically what you mean by the theory of history,
I don't think it is. I think there's a big difference there.
He was the head of the young Hegelians.
Well, he started out as a Hegelian, and then he rejected it in favor of what in some ways structurally is similar, but in some ways is the opposite because it's based on materialism.
It is really funny to see someone who is so confident in their BS get immediately humbled by someone who actually knows what they're talking about. But I think even beyond these dunks, there is a consistent pattern. Charlie seems to know about a lot of things, but only in the most superficial capacity. Matt McManus characterized Charlie's writing in a review of Right-Wing Revolution as being miles wide and inches deep. And I think this is true of Charlie whether he's writing his next political slopfest or debating college students or professional philosophers. As I was making this video, I realized just how long I could make it, even focusing on this one debate. But I wanted it to be manageable, so I decided to include what I did. Trust me, there's a lot of Charlie faceplanting in his debate with Ben Burgess. But if you like this video and want to see more analysis from his other debates, let me know in the comments below, then I might turn this into a series. Anyway guys, thanks for watching the video. I hope you have a good one.